Ever get that feeling like there's got to be more to life, like more that we're all capable of?
Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to be looking at Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, Becoming Supernatural. It's basically all about how everyday folks, people just like us, are doing some pretty uncommon things.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild idea, right? What if all that supernatural stuff we hear about isn't actually so out there? What if it's just part of us that we haven't figured out how to tap into yet?
Hmm.
That's kind of what Dispenza is getting at, and he's got some big names backing him up, guys like Tony Robbins and Lynn McTaggart. They see this book as like a guide to breaking past our limits, and creating a life that feels totally brand new.
And Dispenza doesn't waste any time getting right into it. He throws out these crazy examples right off the bat. I mean, we're talking about people like Li Qingyuan, who supposedly lived for over 200 years. And there's the Institute of Noetic Sciences. They've got tons of research documenting spontaneous healings. This isn't just some fringe stuff. It makes you question what we really know about how much humans can actually do. Yeah, I mean, these cases really challenge what we think we know about human biology. How can someone live that long? How can people just suddenly heal themselves? The amount of evidence INS has is pretty hard to ignore. There's got to be something going on here that we're just not fully understanding yet.
And it's not just these big historical examples. Dispenza tells this story about going to Milarepa's cave in the Himalayas. It's this legendary cave where this mystic named Milarepa lived and supposedly did some amazing things. Dispenza's guide told him that Milarepa could do all this because he understood that he was connected to everything around him. The cave wasn't a limit, it was just part of his world. The guide said all our limitations are just beliefs we put on ourselves. This makes you think about what limits you might be putting on yourself, right?
It's a really powerful metaphor. Our limitations are all in our heads. It all comes down to belief. If you think you can't do something, then you probably can. But what if you start to question those beliefs? That's where things get interesting. That's really the core of what Dispenza's work is about.
That's it, exactly. And it's interesting, Dispenza says he's not trying to convince the skeptics anymore. He's focusing on the people who are open to this idea, who are ready to believe that there's more out there. He wrote this book to show people how to have a better life, to show them that they are multidimensional beings with all this potential that's just waiting to be unlocked.
It makes sense to focus on the people who are already receptive to these ideas. That way, he can really dig deep and provide the tools people need to transform themselves. And that idea that we already have everything we need to become supernatural, that's really empowering. It's not about gaining something new, it's about waking up what's already there.
So that's what we're going to be doing in this deep dive today. We're going to be exploring how to understand and tap into these incredible abilities based on what Dispenza talks about in his book. We'll start with the power of belief and intention. It all starts there, right?
Yeah, think about that story about Milarepa and the cave. It really shows you how important belief is. If you believe something is true, that shapes how you see the world and what you think is possible. So what happens if you start to question those beliefs that are holding you back? What could change for you?
It's not just about individual change either. Dispenza talks about this thing called Project Coherence. It's basically thousands of people all focusing their energy on raising the planet's frequency. He even says there's research showing that this kind of collective intention can actually make a difference in the world, like reducing violence and promoting peace. It really makes you think about the power of collective consciousness, doesn't it?
It's pretty amazing to think about, isn't it? That our intentions could actually have a ripple effect and change things on a global scale.
Mhm.
The research Dispenza mentions about those peace meditations, it's pretty compelling. It shows that we're all connected and that our individual energies can actually contribute to a greater whole.
It's really powerful stuff. So another key part of Dispenza's work is this idea that we can actually change our brainwaves through meditation. He says this isn't just about relaxation, it's about creating real, measurable changes in our biology. Think about it. How could you benefit from having a calmer, more focused mind?
Oh, absolutely. When we meditate, we're basically shifting our brainwave patterns,
Yeah.
like tuning into different frequencies within our own consciousness. So if we move away from those fast beta waves that are associated with stress and overthinking and tap into the slower alpha and theta waves, well, that's where things start to get interesting. Alpha and theta are linked to relaxation and the subconscious mind, so it's like we're opening up a door to deeper levels of ourselves where real transformation can happen.
And this is where things get really exciting, epigenetics. Dispenza says we're not just stuck with the genes we're born with. By changing our thoughts, actions, and feelings, we can actually change how our genes express themselves. So that feeling of being trapped by your genetics. Dispenza says it doesn't have to be that way. We have more control over our biology than we think.
Epigenetics is such an empowering concept. It's this
Hmm.
idea that our genes aren't our destiny. They're more like a blueprint that can be modified by our environment and our choices, what we think, what we do, how we feel. It all plays a role in shaping which genes are activated and which ones are suppressed. So we actually have a lot more say in our health and well-being than we might realize.
Dispenza also describes these intense workshops where people go to completely disconnect from their everyday lives for a few days. And this isn't just a vacation, it's about creating an environment where they can really dive deep into their inner world and transform themselves. He says the goal is to literally become someone else, someone free from the limitations of their past.
Yeah, those workshops are like a total immersion experience. By removing all those external distractions and triggers from our daily lives, the participants can really focus on their inner world and create a new identity that's aligned with their true potential. It's like hitting the reset button on their whole being.
And Dispenza's not afraid to talk about his own experiences either. He talks about exploring the quantum world, which he believes we can access through the pineal gland. So that brings us to another important concept, understanding the pineal gland and how we can transcend our senses.
Right. The pineal gland, often called the third eye, is like a biological antenna. It's this tiny little gland in our brain that's sensitive to light and electromagnetic frequencies. Dispenza believes it can act as a transducer, converting those frequencies into vivid internal images. He says that by activating the pineal gland, we can experience a whole new reality that originates from within, and it can feel even more real than anything we've experienced in the external world.
So it's like we're not limited to just our five senses. There's another way of perceiving reality that's accessible to us. And what's even more interesting is that during this process, the pineal gland actually transforms melatonin, that hormone that helps us sleep, into some really potent compounds. It makes you wonder what kind of impact that has on our consciousness.
It's fascinating, isn't it? That a simple hormone like melatonin could be involved in these profound experiences. Dispenza's work suggests that the pineal gland is a key player in accessing higher states of consciousness, and that there's a lot more to this little gland than we previously thought.
Now let's talk about emotions and memories and how we get conditioned by them. Dispenza explains that emotions are basically the chemical consequences of our past experiences. And when we have these strong emotional states, it creates stronger memories. It's a cycle that can keep us stuck in the past.
Absolutely. When we experience something that triggers a strong emotional response, our brain creates a neurochemical signature that's associated with that event. And the stronger the emotion, the deeper that imprint becomes. So we end up with these tendencies to recreate those same emotional states, even when the original trigger is long gone. It's like we're reliving those past experiences over and over again.
And that's where it can be really detrimental. But Dispenza also shares some really inspiring stories about people who have broken free from these patterns. He talks about Anna, who healed herself from both paralysis and cancer by consciously changing her unconscious thoughts and emotional patterns through meditation. Even though she was facing all these challenges, she dedicated herself to feeling love for life, essentially teaching her body what it would feel like to be healthy again.
Anna's story is an amazing example of the power of the mind-body connection. It shows that by consciously cultivating positive emotions and shifting our internal state, we can actually influence our physical health and well-being. And what's really fascinating is that her experience aligns perfectly with the principles of epigenetics. By consistently feeling love and joy, she was essentially sending signals to her body that activated genes associated with healing and well-being.
It's truly remarkable. Now, Dispenza also explores the nature of time itself. He proposes that we exist in an eternal present moment, that linear time as we perceive it isn't the ultimate reality. He even talks about having this experience during meditation where a timepiece appeared, giving him this profound understanding that time isn't what we think it is.
Yeah, that experience really challenges our conventional understanding of time. The idea that past, present, and future all exist simultaneously is a mind-bending concept, but it's rooted in quantum physics. It suggests that all possibilities are always available to us in this very moment, which is a pretty empowering idea.
And he describes feeling connected to both his past and future selves at the same time, emphasizing this overwhelming feeling of love emanating from his future self. It makes you wonder if it's possible to tap into that future energy and use it to shape our present reality.
That's a fascinating possibility, isn't it? That we could actually connect with and draw guidance from our future selves. It suggests that time is not a rigid linear construct, but a more fluid and interconnected dimension that we can potentially influence.
So let's talk about the brain's plasticity and the power of mental rehearsal. Dispenza explains how repeating the same thoughts and emotions over and over again actually wires our brains and conditions our bodies to the past. But he also talks about studies, like those involving piano players and muscle flexing, showing that just mentally rehearsing an action can create changes in the brain as if we'd actually performed the action.
The research on mental rehearsal is really compelling. It shows that our brains can't always distinguish between imagined experiences and real ones. So when we vividly imagine ourselves doing something, it's like we're actually practicing it, and our brains create new neural pathways as a result. This is the principle behind visualization techniques used by athletes and performers to improve their skills. It really highlights the incredible power of our minds to shape our reality.
It really does. And here's where it gets really relevant for us. Dispenza points out that we often spend our days mentally rehearsing our current reality, our routines, our problems, our relationships. We're basically reinforcing those same neural patterns and keeping ourselves stuck in those same loops.
Right. It's like we're running the same mental programs over and over again, and that keeps us trapped in those familiar patterns.
Mm.
If we want to create real change, we need to start changing those programs. We need to start consciously directing our attention and energy towards the reality we want to create.
Exactly. And that brings us to the role of our attention and energy. Dispenza has this saying, where attention goes, energy flows. He explains that when we're constantly focused on the external world, our phones, our worries, our to-do lists, it drains our energy. And that leaves us with very little energy to create a new internal reality.
Our attention is like a spotlight. Whatever we focus on, we energize. And when that spotlight is constantly flitting around, focusing on external distractions, we scatter our energy and deplete our inner resources. But when we learn to focus our attention inward, on our thoughts, feelings, and intentions, that's when we start to build the energy we need to create real change.
It's like we're giving away our power to all those external things. Dispenza also points out that the external world can actually reinforce our emotional addictions. We might subconsciously seek out situations or relationships that trigger those same familiar negative emotions, even if those emotions are holding us back. Have you ever noticed yourself doing that?
Oh, absolutely. We can get so caught up in those familiar emotional patterns that we actually seek them out, even if they're not serving us. It's like we're addicted to those feelings and we keep going back for more. But the key is to become aware of those patterns and start to break free from them.
So if our thoughts and feelings create our reality and we're constantly thinking and feeling in ways that keep us stuck, how do we break free from that cycle? Dispenza talks about the difference between operating from a state of survival and operating from a state of creation. He says that when we're in survival mode, we're constantly focused on the external world, on threats and problems. We become materialistic and reactive, just trying to get by.
Survival mode is like a primal response that's designed to keep us safe from danger. But when we're constantly in that mode, it narrows our focus and limits our ability to see possibilities. We become so preoccupied with the external world that we lose touch with our inner world, our creativity, our joy.
The good news is we don't have to stay stuck there. Dispenza says we can consciously choose to disconnect from that external world through meditation. By shifting our brain waves from those high-frequency beta waves to the more relaxed alpha and theta waves, we can access a deeper state of presence and reclaim our energy.
Meditation is a powerful tool for shifting our state of being. It allows us to quiet the mind, release stress, and connect with a deeper sense of peace and stillness within ourselves. And when we do that, we start to weaken the grip of those old patterns and create space for something new to emerge.
Now, this brings us to the realm of the quantum field. Dispenza describes it as this invisible field of pure energy and information that exists beyond space and time. It's the source of all creation, and it governs all the laws of nature. It's kind of a mind-blowing concept, but it suggests that there's a whole other level of reality that we're not usually aware of.
The quantum field is a pretty radical departure from our classical understanding of physics. It challenges our notions of space, time, and matter. But more and more scientists are starting to acknowledge its existence and explore its implications. What's really exciting is that it suggests that we're not just separate entities, but interconnected beings that are fundamentally part of this unified field of consciousness.
And he talks about how the behavior of subatomic particles in this field is affected by the observer, by us. It's like our very awareness influences what manifests in our lives. So it's not just about our thoughts and feelings, it's also about our consciousness and our intention.
The observer effect in quantum physics is a fascinating concept. It suggests that our consciousness is not just a passive observer of reality, but an active participant in shaping it. And that has profound implications for how we understand our role in the universe and our ability to create our own reality.
So now let's talk about coherence and incoherence, especially when it comes to our brainwaves. Dispenza explains that coherent brainwaves are synchronized and orderly, which allows for clear communication within our brain and body. But when our brainwaves are incoherent, they're all over the place, and it creates a jumbled mess of signals.
Coherence is like harmony. It's when different parts of a system are working together in sync. And incoherence is like dissonance, when things are out of alignment. So when our brainwaves are coherent, it's like our whole system is humming along smoothly. But when they're incoherent, it's like we're trying to run a symphony orchestra with everyone playing different tunes. It just doesn't work very well.
And Dispenza says that when we tap into the quantum field through practices like meditation, we can shift our brainwaves into these coherent alpha and theta frequencies. And that creates a powerful connection between our conscious mind and our autonomic nervous system, which can lead to profound healing and a greater sense of balance within our whole being.
When we meditate, we're basically training our brains to become more coherent. We're calming the mental chatter, reducing stress, and creating a more harmonious internal environment. And when our brainwaves become more synchronized, it creates a ripple effect throughout our entire system, influencing our physical health, our emotional well-being, and even our spiritual connection.
It's amazing what we can do with our minds. And this brings us to the idea of intention and manifestation. Dispenza shares this really interesting experiment that was done with baby chicks. The chicks were placed near a random event generator, and their focused intention seemed to influence the generator to move closer to them. It's like their minds were influencing matter.
That experiment with the chicks is pretty wild, isn't it? It suggests that our intentions might have a tangible effect on the physical world, even on seemingly random events. It's like our thoughts can create a ripple in the fabric of reality.
It really makes you wonder. He also talks about this guy named Jace, who manifested a new job by clearly defining his intention, visualizing it with a personal symbol, and then broadcasting that energy into the quantum field. And he actually provides steps for listeners to create their own symbols and broadcast their intentions. It's like a practical guide to manifestation.
Jace's story is a great example of how we can consciously apply these principles to create tangible results in our lives. By combining clear intention, vivid visualization, and focused energy, he was able to align himself with the possibility he desired and bring it into reality. And what's really cool is that Dispenza provides specific techniques that we can all use to do the same.
So let's talk about electromagnetic frequencies and the body's energy centers. Dispenza explains that all frequency carries information, just like the radio waves that bring you this show. He describes the spectrum of frequencies, from the zero-point field, which is like the source of all creation, to the densest physical matter. He also talks about how stress and negative emotions can create incoherence in our brain's electromagnetic activity.
It's fascinating to think about ourselves as energetic beings. We're constantly emitting and receiving electromagnetic frequencies. And just like a radio needs to be tuned to the right frequency to receive a clear signal, our bodies need to be in a state of energetic coherence to function optimally. When we're stressed or experiencing negative emotions, it disrupts that coherence and creates interference in our system.
And that's where the idea of chakras comes in. Dispenza talks about these 7 energy centers in our bodies that are associated with different aspects of our being. He says that by focusing our attention on these centers and cultivating elevated emotions, we can activate and balance them.
The chakras are like energy vortices that regulate the flow of energy throughout our system. Each chakra is associated with specific physical functions, emotional states, and spiritual qualities. And when they're balanced and flowing freely, it supports our overall health and well-being.
Dispenza explains that when we're constantly operating in survival mode, it drains energy from our electromagnetic field, which can lower our overall frequency and make us more susceptible to disease. He contrasts the lower 3 chakras, which are associated with survival, with the upper 4 chakras, which are linked to more selfless and higher consciousness states.
It's like we have 2 operating systems, survival mode and creation mode. And when we're stuck in survival mode, we're constantly draining our energy and limiting our potential. But when we shift into creation mode, we tap into a higher frequency and open ourselves up to greater possibilities.
He also talks about the energetic fields that surround everything from atoms to organs, introducing these ideas of quantum information biology and biophotons. These are tiny packets of light that carry information within those fields. He even tells this incredible story about a heart transplant patient who had memories of the donor's murder, which suggests that information might be stored and transmitted within those energetic fields. It's pretty mind-blowing.
That story about the heart transplant patient really challenges our conventional understanding of memory and information. It suggests that there's more to us than just our physical bodies and brains. There's an energetic component to our being that we're only just beginning to understand.
And that brings us to this powerful meditation technique that Dispenza teaches called the blessing of the energy centers. It's all about focusing on each of those chakras and the space around them while cultivating elevated emotions like love, gratitude, and joy. He says it helps us to create a more coherent and high-frequency energetic field.
The blessing of the energy centers meditation is a beautiful practice for harmonizing our energy system and cultivating a deeper connection to our inner self. By combining focused attention, elevated emotions, and a relaxed state of awareness, we can clear blockages, balance our chakras, and create a more vibrant and harmonious flow of energy throughout our entire being.
And he also emphasizes the importance of blessing the eighth chakra, which is located above the head. He says that this opens us up to receiving information and insights from the quantum field. It's like we're expanding our awareness beyond our physical limitations and tapping into a higher source of wisdom.
The eighth chakra is often associated with our connection to the divine, to universal consciousness. And by consciously opening and activating this center, we're essentially creating a channel for that higher wisdom and guidance to flow into our lives.
Now let's talk about that thinking-feeling loop that we all get caught up in sometimes. Dispenza explains how this constant cycle of repetitive thoughts and ingrained feelings creates a habitual state of being. It anchors us to the past and makes our body the subconscious mind of those emotions. He gives examples like anger being stored energetically in the third chakra and guilt in the second, and those emotions can actually create physical symptoms and illnesses.
Yeah, that thinking-feeling loop can be a real trap. We get stuck in those repetitive patterns, and it's like we're running the same program over and over again. But the key is to become aware of those patterns and start to interrupt them. When we can break free from that loop, we can start to create a new reality for ourselves.
And he uses this analogy of a magnet. He says our emotions create an electromagnetic field around us that attracts experiences that match that frequency. So if we're constantly radiating anger, we're more likely to attract situations that make us angry.
It's like we're putting out a vibrational signal, and the universe responds by sending us experiences that match that vibration. So if we want to change our reality, we need to change our vibration. We need to start cultivating more positive emotions and aligning ourselves with the frequencies we want to experience.
It makes so much sense. Now, Dispenza also talks about the activation of Kundalini energy. He describes it as a powerful force that lies dormant at the base of our spine and can be awakened through breathwork, movement, and the stimulation of the pineal gland. He says it's like an orgasm in the head, which sounds pretty intense.
The concept of Kundalini energy is an ancient one, but Dispenza presents it in a way that bridges the gap between science and spirituality. He explains the physiological mechanisms involved in awakening this energy and the transformative potential it holds for our consciousness and our lives.
And then there's the connection between our gene expression and our emotions. Dispenza says that for new positive gene expression to occur, the intensity of our elevated inner emotion needs to be greater than the emotional charge of our past traumas. He even cites a study showing significant changes in gene expression related to things like neurogenesis, anti-aging, and even cancer suppression, simply by shifting people's internal emotional states.
That study on gene expression is truly remarkable. It shows that our emotions have a direct impact on our biology, and that by consciously cultivating positive emotions, we can actually influence which genes are activated and which ones are suppressed. It's like we have the power to rewrite our genetic code through the power of our minds and emotions.
It's so empowering. And he reminds us that we're only using a small fraction of our DNA right now. The rest of it, which scientists used to call junk DNA, might actually hold a vast library of potential abilities that are just waiting to be unlocked.
Yeah, that idea of junk DNA is fascinating. It suggests that there's so much more to us than we realize, and that we might have untapped abilities and potentials that we haven't even begun to explore. It's like we're only scratching the surface of what's possible for human beings.
Now let's talk about some of the incredible case studies that Dispenza shares in his book. These are real people who have applied these principles and experienced profound transformations. There's Ginny, who healed her chronic back and leg pain during a meditation simply by surrendering to a feeling of wholeness. Her pain just disappeared in an instant.
Ginny's story is a powerful example of the healing power of the mind. When she surrendered to that feeling of wholeness, she essentially shifted her consciousness into a state where healing was possible. And because her mind and body are interconnected, that shift in consciousness had direct impact on her physical well-being.
Then there's Daniel, who overcame severe electromagnetic hypersensitivity through meditation. He went from being completely debilitated by technology to living a normal life. It shows that our bodies have an incredible capacity to adapt and heal, even from seemingly impossible conditions.
Daniel's story is a testament to the power of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself. Through consistent meditation, he was able to retrain his nervous system and reduce his sensitivity to electromagnetic frequencies. It's a great example of how we can use our minds to influence our physical health and well-being.
There's also Felicia, a medical doctor who experienced these profound insights and a high-energy gamma brainwave state during meditation. It changed her whole perception of reality. It shows that there are levels of awareness and understanding that are available to us that we might not even be aware of.
Felicia's experience is particularly interesting because she's a scientist. She came at this from a skeptical perspective, but her own experiences convinced her that there's more to reality than what we can see and measure with our scientific instruments. It shows that there's room for both science and spirituality in our understanding of the world.
Then there's Tim, who used a mind movie and a kaleidoscope to bypass his analytical mind and experience a powerful energetic shift and a feeling of transformation. It shows that there are tools and techniques that can help us access those deeper states of consciousness and create lasting change in our lives.
Mind movies and other visualization techniques can be really effective because they engage our imagination and emotions, which are powerful forces for creation. By vividly imagining the reality we want to experience, we're essentially planting seeds in our subconscious mind that can eventually grow and manifest in our lives.
And Sarah healed a severe back injury by mentally embodying the practice of aerial yoga during a mind movie meditation. She literally felt her future as real, and her pain disappeared. It's an incredible example of how we can use our imagination and our intention to heal our bodies.
Sarah's experience shows that our bodies are not just physical machines. They're also energetic systems that are influenced by our thoughts, beliefs, and emotions. And when we can tap into the power of our imagination and align our energy with our desired outcome, we can create remarkable healing and transformation.
And finally, there's Terry, who had this overwhelming experience of love and connection during a walking meditation. She felt her future self reaching back and calling to her past self. It's a beautiful example of how we're all interconnected across time and space.
Terry's experience highlights the idea that we're not just isolated individuals, but part of a larger web of consciousness. And that connection extends beyond our physical limitations and across time itself. It suggests that we have access to guidance and support from our future selves, which is a really comforting thought.
These stories are so inspiring, and they really bring Dispenza's principles to life. Now, he also talks about the difference between the Newtonian world of space-time, which is the reality that we usually experience, and the quantum world of time-space, which is a realm of infinite possibilities. He says that to enter this time-space reality, we need to let go of our attachment to our physical body, our identity, our possessions, our location, and even our sense of linear time. It's about focusing our awareness on the unified field, that underlying source of all creation.
It's a radical shift in perspective,
So,
but it's essential if we want to tap into the full potential of our being. We're so conditioned to identify with our physical form and our ego that we often forget that we're so much more than that. We're part of this vast interconnected field of consciousness that transcends all limitations.
and he emphasizes that when we cultivate a feeling of wholeness and let go of that sense of lack or scarcity, we can start to experience our desired future as if it's already happened. It's about creating from a place of abundance rather than from a place of need.
Absolutely. When we operate from a place of lack, we're constantly chasing after things that we think will make us happy. But when we realize that we already have everything we need within ourselves, we can start to create from a place of joy, gratitude, and fulfillment.
Now, let's talk about the role of melatonin. Dispenza explains that it's not just a sleep hormone. It also plays a crucial role in facilitating mystical experiences, especially when it's transformed into these potent, psychoactive metabolites by the pineal gland. He also talks about the importance of the movement of cerebrospinal fluid and specific breathing techniques in stimulating the pineal gland and accessing those altered states of consciousness.
It's fascinating how all these different systems in our body work together to create these profound experiences. The pineal gland, the cerebrospinal fluid, the breath, it's all interconnected. And by understanding these mechanisms, we can consciously use them to enhance our spiritual growth and access higher levels of awareness.
And then there's the concept of heart coherence. Dispenza explains that when our heart rhythm is coherent, It creates a cascade of positive effects throughout our whole system, including lower blood pressure, improved brain function, and even healthier gene expression.
Heart coherence is a beautiful state of being. It's when our heart, mind, and emotions are all in alignment. And when we can sustain that coherence, it creates a ripple effect of well-being throughout our entire system.
He introduces this concept of heart rate variability, or HRV, which is a measure of the flexibility and resilience of our nervous system. He explains that a high HRV is associated with greater emotional balance and well-being. He also highlights how our heart rhythm carries encoded information, and that coherent, ordered rhythms are linked to healthier gene expression.
The heart is much more than just a pump. It's an intelligent organ that plays a crucial role in our emotional and spiritual well-being. And when our heart is coherent, it sends a clear, harmonious signal to the rest of our body, promoting health and vitality.
He also talks about Dr. Armour's discovery of neural pathways extending from the heart to the brain, which shows that the heart actually influences the brain's activity. It suggests that the heart might even play a role in our intuition and decision-making.
The heart-brain connection is a fascinating area of research. It's challenging our traditional understanding of how our body and mind work together, and it highlights the importance of listening to our hearts and following our intuition.
Now let's talk about subconscious programming. Dispenza explains how pairing powerful symbols and images with specific emotional states can effectively reprogram our subconscious mind. And he suggests using tools like mind movies, especially when we're in those relaxed alpha brainwave states, to implant positive suggestions and reinforce desired outcomes.
Our subconscious mind is incredibly powerful, but it's also very impressionable. It's constantly absorbing information from our environment and shaping our beliefs and behaviors. And tools like mind movies allow us to consciously choose what we want to feed our subconscious mind. It's a way of taking control of our programming and creating a more positive and empowering reality for ourselves.
And he also talks about the importance of walking meditation and consciously embodying our envisioned future self throughout the day. It's about integrating those desired changes into our everyday lives and living as if our future is already here.
Yeah, it's not enough to just meditate and visualize. We also need to take action and start living in alignment with the reality we want to create. By consciously embodying our future self, we're sending a powerful signal to the universe that this is who we are and this is what we're creating.
And finally, Dispenza revisits the concept of project coherence and the potential of collective intention. He talks about studies showing how group meditation can influence global events, like reducing violence and promoting peace. And he connects this to the Earth's natural frequency, the Schumann resonance, which affects our brains and is associated with states of relaxation, meditation, and suggestibility.
The idea that our collective consciousness can influence global events is a powerful one. It suggests that we're not just passive observers of the world, but active participants in shaping it. And if enough of us can come together and align our intentions with peace, love, and harmony, we can create a ripple effect that transforms the world for the better.
It's a beautiful vision, and it gives us hope for the future. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into becoming supernatural, the message is clear. The power to transform our lives and transcend our limitations lies within each and every one of us.
Dr. Dispenza's work offers a compelling blend of science and spirituality, providing practical tools and profound insights that can help us awaken our true potential and create a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
It's an invitation to step into a new reality, a reality where anything is possible. So we leave you with this question. What are the limiting beliefs that you're ready to let go of? What extraordinary future will you create for yourself?
We encourage you to explore Dr. Dispenza's book and the vast resources available to support you on your journey of transformation. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.